If you did CrossFit in 2016, you probably do jiu-jitsu right now. Or you've at least...
Very accurate.
It's the same type of person. You've at least tried it.
Welcome to the Council of Dudes podcast. I'm your host, Vinny Brusco. I am a father, a husband, the founder of Agora Social Club, a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a certified life coach, and a facilitator of the Council of Dudes men's group. This podcast is here to help you tap into and follow your golden thread, that feeling that pulls you forward to become the best version of yourself. If you're someone who's into personal development and self-help and is looking to live a life of more alignment, then this is the podcast for you. Subscribe to the channel, click the notification button, and follow along on the journey of the show.
Hey, this is Pat Damiano, and you're checking out the Council of Dudes podcast.
And here we go.
Dude, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome. We were at an ACE event with Dave and Sean, and Dave was like, "Gotta have Pat on your podcast." I was like, "All right, Pat, come on the podcast." So, as most things, I find this to be pretty serendipitous because I'm coming off of herniated disc, L4, L5, L5, S1. Yeah, lots of fun. And I'm kind of also at the point where I don't know what I want to do next in regards to working out. I've done the CrossFit thing. I got it very big into running at one point. Jiu-jitsu is kind of like my foundation of fitness. But outside of that, I'm kind of like, do I want to go back into CrossFit? Do I want to do some type of hybrid thing? And I think what you're doing is something that kind of resonates with someone like me who wants to do the strength and conditioning stuff, but doesn't want to be lifting dumbbells and barbells and all that stuff. So how did you get into kind of the diversity of kettlebells?
So kind of exactly what you were just saying. So long story short, I'm 31 now. I actually first discovered kettlebells when I was like 14 years old. So they've always been kind of part of my...
Were they like
training.
the rubber ones? They're like plastic and they had like a brochure and shit?
Yeah. That's exactly what
We had them in our house too.
I always make the joke of... This is how old I am in a sense, is when I first bought my first 3 kettlebells with my own money, I was like 15 years old and they gave me a brochure.
Yeah.
And it was like a little pamphlet. It's like, here's 5 exercises because that's all that really existed. So that was way, way back in the day. They've always been kind of part of my training. And then as I got into jiu-jitsu almost 4 years ago, they started to become a little bit more of my training because I was going through a bodybuilding style split then, push-pull legs. I was tight, just didn't feel great on the mats. And then just kind of dove into the kettlebells pretty hard. They were always part of the plan. And then I just decided one day I want to get stronger again. So I started using those as my modality and it just kind of stuck. I started to really enjoy them. A lot of like what you were saying is I like CrossFit. I like what CrossFit does, which is intensity. You do a little bit of everything and it's functional. You get your strength conditioning and so on and so forth. But barbells were just starting to kind of put a beating on me. I have a problem where if I go into a CrossFit class, I'm going to ram my head against the wall as hard as I can every single workout. So that crushes me.
Yeah.
I don't do well at turning it off. Kettlebells kind of force that for me. So I still get the intensity and desire to work out hard and lift heavy and challenge myself, but without beating myself up as much. Again, part of that is my own problem, but kettlebells allow me to do that in a way that works best for me.
But it kind of also introduces the idea of like powerlifting to some regard, right? You're doing a lot of powerlifting movements with the kettlebells, but to me, it's not like the boring traditional, like, all right, we're gonna do, whatever, squats or whatever. You can see how versed I am in lifting movements. But again, the powerlifting idea in its own right, like, all right, yeah, we're gonna do back, buys, we're gonna make all these, compartmentalized workouts. But to me, those don't have enough to them, right? They're kind of stagnant. It's a lot of stiff movement. I don't really enjoy them. I will, if I have a little mini gym in my garage, but I'll get down there and I know what I'm supposed to do, but I also am not motivated to do any of it. So how did kettlebells kind of add that into the mix? Because obviously you have a lot of powerlifting, but there is also a lot of diversity to the kettlebell.
Yeah. So my style of training with kettlebells kind of came from that. Is I've always been a little bit more of a performance-based lifter, which leads to snatches, clean and presses, and trying to be a little bit more strength-based as opposed to I want my biceps bigger. Right. So that leads to those exercises of the deadlifts, the kettlebell swings. Things are going to be a little bit more athletic, a little bit more snappy. So that is part of what led me to the kettlebells. And I just used things I had learned in CrossFit and just throughout my other years of lifting and working out and took that into kettlebells to be a little bit more of an explosive athletic lifter and way more performance based, as opposed to, all right, I need to do bis and tris, I need to do chest to back. It just wasn't exciting for me. I needed something a little bit more stimulating.
Yeah.
And kettlebells allowed me to do that because me personally, I like to chase numbers a little bit. I'll admit that is I want to go a little bit heavier or do an extra weight, doing a seated single arm row or whatever it is, and hopefully looking in the mirror next day and being like, oh, my lats look a little different. It doesn't get me excited. I need something a little bit more tangible. And that just is what the kettlebells allowed me to do, is have a little bit more tangible things to be working towards and be more performance and engaging in my workouts.
See, I'm not a numbers. I'm more of like a rabbit hole person. Like, and that's, I mean, I know you do jujitsu, which you mentioned, and we'll definitely dive into that. But even with the running, and I guess like, so more of like the movement, even with the kettlebells, like you can kind of get into that kind of dark place, almost like that, like zeroed out, like, and I'm sure you can get there too in like squats and stuff like that. But for me, it never registered that way. But something like kettlebell swings or running particularly, or obviously jujitsu, those are the places where like you get into like that really zone, like you get into like the flow of it, and you like can get into like that kind of dark place, right? How have you used the kettlebell to kind of facilitate that kind of approach? Because again, for me, I don't care about numbers. I'm not like, I need to lift this amount, or, you know, those small incremental steps don't really mean much to me. I'm more of like, I want to get into a depth of feeling.
Yeah, so that is part of it too. And it's part of why I think so many people, once they do try out kettlebells, they tend to stick there for a little while or never go back. It's a skill.
Never go back ever.
They don't.
Yeah,
A lot of people, most people don't walk into the gym for the first time ever and start using kettlebells. It almost never happens. They start doing bodybuilding and something along those lines. Maybe they get into powerlifting, and a lot of people transition into something towards, or if they transition to kettlebells, they tend to stay there for many different reasons. But I think one of them is it is a skill. That's why you're the way you're describing it, I view that and interpret that as I'm learning a skill. I want to get better at jujitsu, but I like not feeling as terrible at it. I like getting a good workout there, but I'd rather learn a Kimura from a different angle or a few different angles. And that's what happens with the kettlebells as well. Is like, yes, I'm gaining strength and maybe lifting some more weight. But if I'm not, there's also other sides of it, as I'm not lifting as much, or I'm not lifting more weight, but that felt a little better than it did last time. Or it
Felt better in what regard?
Technique-wise.
Gotcha.
Right? You've done that same thing in jiu-jitsu, where you go for a run. If you could run 5 miles and want to die, and then a month later you run 5 miles and you're like, that was a lot easier. Maybe your technique got a little bit better. Your breathing was better. Obviously, you're better at running. But those little things are what I think attract people to something like kettlebells or running your jiu-jitsu, is you're not just getting a workout. You're now on a path to learn a skill. And that is what keeps people invested for a very long time. And I just don't think there is that with the traditional bodybuilding style of lifting. It just gets boring. After a while, if you know how to squat, you know how to deadlift, you know how to do a curl, you can learn that in 6 months and then not really improve on your technique or need to improve on your technique forever. But you doing jiu-jitsu or a kettlebell snatch, there's always room for improvement. And I think that's what keeps people into it. And that's the going dark, like you were saying.
So for me, again, those bodybuilding traditional lifts, like you just said perfectly, they're boring to me, right? They're very boring. In kettlebells, and again, my kettlebell experience is with CrossFit mainly. How do you diversify workouts? Because it's like, how do you incorporate a bicep curl or something like that? Because again, it's kind of an unconventional kind of tool where, you know, you're used to barbells and dumbbells that kind of register more in like the lifting sense of it.
I tend to not. Realistically, for the most part, most people don't need biceps or triceps. They want bigger arms, but like the actual act of doing a curl or a tricep extension, you can go ahead and do it and add it in if you want, but it's not necessary by any means. If your specific goal is to get bigger bis and tris, then yeah, maybe, but for the most part, it's not necessarily needed. Bodybuilding just kind of took over as the overarching or main umbrella of fitness and what everybody thinks fitness is, and it's just not. Doing a bicep curl has little to no purpose for the most part. Really, it's if you're a bodybuilder and need or want bigger biceps, or there are scenarios where maybe if you've had elbow problems, maybe doing like very slow controlled bicep curls can help strengthen your elbow. But for the most part, very, very specific isolation exercises like that are virtually unnecessary, in my opinion. So I almost never do them.
I was saying to you before, you look like healthy and fit. You just look fit. Like there's certain people that, they look fit, but you could tell like it's just like you said, like they're struggling to move their bodies or whatever it is. Like you look healthy as shit. Like you look very like a fucking Captain America. You just look. I'm just saying, you look very healthy. And obviously, whatever you're doing and the program you're creating is working, right? It's unconventional in a lot of ways, which I think is kind of cool. It's a little bit different. You're seeing more kettlebell programs and you're seeing more usage of kettlebells and kind of, clubs and maces and things like that, which I think is for someone like me, now that we're having this conversation, like, oh, this is kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that's not just bench press. Like I'm bored. How much diversity do you need in your kettlebell arraignment to get into a program like yours? Do you need like a whole vast of kettlebells? Can you have one? Can you have three?
So perfect. What I tell people is ideal scenario is you have three, something light, medium, and heavy. And then that's obviously going to be very dependent on the person.
Sure.
That depends, male, female, experience lifting, and so on and so forth. But 3 is ideal. Anything more than that is golden. But realistically, you can get away with using just one. I write the workouts with the intention of you can get away with just doing this entire program with one kettlebell. You obviously need to make some adjustments in certain scenarios, increasing reps, decreasing reps, whatever it is. But you can get away with just using one, realistically.
It's perfect. That's all I got. That's all I got.
That's all I need.
I got one.
Yeah,
I got one 35-pounder, I think, something like that.
You can get away with it. Again, you'll make adjustments, and it's just a lot of that is kind of on the user. If you do a set of, if it says do 10 kettlebell swings and all you have is one, and you do your set of 10, you're like, that was really easy. All right, do 12 or 15. Right. Make it a little bit tougher. Make it work for you. I always try to tell people on my program, because there's people in all different areas. There are people who use it to train as like their strength and conditioning for jiu-jitsu. So they're maybe using it 2 or 3 times a week and not going as hard. And then there's people who are going ape shit every single day on it with 1,000 kettlebells in their garage. It's a blueprint. Use it as a blueprint. What I write is not gospel. I want this program to work for exactly whatever you need it for.
Yeah, I think that was kind of my, again, I have a fucking jacked up back right now, but I was doing jiu-jitsu 5-6 times a week, every day. Which is, yes, in theory, it's awesome. And I was loving every second of it, but I wasn't doing anything additional. The only time I had a long stretch like that of doing consistent jiu-jitsu, I was running a lot. I was like a lot of running. And that worked pretty well. I think I stayed pretty injury-free. And the jiu-jitsu isn't what happened. But again, what happened was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, right? Just grinding out jiu-jitsu mat 6 days a week. And then just the tweak at home kind of effed everything up for me. But how important is that, like having the strength and conditioning on top of the jiu-jitsu? Because it's like, I don't really want to do anything else but jiu-jitsu, and you know that feeling. But I understand now, especially, that I need to really develop a stronger back, a stronger core. And again, although when I'm doing jiu-jitsu more times than not, did you know you're signing up for a consultation, by the way? When I'm doing jiu-jitsu more times than not, you get into a certain aesthetic, right? You look a certain way. You look like a fighter, right? But then obviously the foundation to that isn't as structurally in together, right? It's a little bit like the integrity of that's kind of loose.
It's fighters fight. They don't lift, so they in certain scenarios, if they're not doing enough lifting, they can be a little fragile. Yeah. And that tends to happen a lot of times. I mean, you see it a lot in jiu-jitsu or just fighting in general. People get really into it, so they do that all the time, but they're missing this very important part, which is strength and conditioning training. Or I'll put really just strength training, because they're probably getting enough conditioning by just rolling or doing rounds or whatever. And it is necessary, because you're getting bent, you're getting moved, thrown, pushed, whatever it is. It's usually not up to you. How you're being moved or how you're being handled. It's very unpredictable. And just having the structural integrity of your muscles, but also your joints, and you could say your bones, but that probably doesn't come into too much of a play when it comes to jiu-jitsu. But just having them stronger is going to allow you to roll longer, better, and safer. It's just the facts, and it doesn't need to be as much as you think. And I think that's where people get caught up is. And you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll just use you as an example. You might not be doing as much strength and conditioning work because you're kind of like, damn, I need to do like 4 times a week, 30 to 40 minutes to make it worth it, and so on and so forth.
Exactly.
No. If you need to get the minimal effective dose to just be a little better on the mat, you could get away with twice a week for 30 minutes. Honestly, look, is it perfect? No, but if you're just looking to feel a little better on the mats, whether it's stronger or just safer, you could get away with 2 30-minute good full body strength workouts a week. And that would be a pretty.
And now, what about for someone who isn't doing jiu-jitsu? Because obviously we're in a cult.
Yes,
and so for those folks who are not doing jiu-jitsu, what would you recommend in regards to like a good workout for them in regards to like the kettlebell program?
In terms of like timing?
Timing, days a week?
I'm big on you need at least 3, right? At 3 minutes, 3 times a week, 40 minutes a day. At least. I would really like that 4th, maybe 5th day in there. And maybe if you go to the 5th day, you can make it 30 minutes. It's kind of that like 120 to 150 minutes a week,
right,
to really get something going. You can do less than that, but I don't like the better than nothing being like, that's the bar we're shooting for. Like
it is in theory, but
but like, 2 15-minute workouts a week is like, it's better than nothing, but like, what's it doing, right? Going to jiu-jitsu once a month is better than nothing, but like, what's it doing, right? So I personally like to set the bar a little bit higher than better than nothing. So 3 times a week, 40 minutes a day. If you can get that 4th day in, awesome. If you want to get a 5th day in and make it 30 minutes, that's fine. I would like that. But I think that's a really good place for people to actually start making changes to themselves. And that might just be activity, right? Maybe you're someone who's not ready for 4 kettlebell workouts a week. Make one of the days a walk for 30 or 40 minutes. That's totally fine. Just get something moving consistently 4 times a week, at least 3.
So when I was doing CrossFit, I felt like I'll show you pictures. I was in the best shape of, like, aesthetically, again, felt great, looked great. But again, the grind on you in the CrossFit, herniated disc doing CrossFit, doing deadlifts, nobody's fault but my own, but felt the pop. Continued the workout, of course. Went home, all the adrenaline wore off, and I was like, like shooting to the groin, the whole thing. Like my daughter, who was 2 at the time, she had a little toy stethoscope. She came over. She was like, "You okay?" I was like, "No, I'm not." But you know, obviously, at the movement, at that pace, there does run a high risk of injury, right? And that's any workout. I mean, that could be jiu-jitsu, that could be kettlebells, it can be. What about the kettlebells or other equipment that you're utilizing kind of offset some of that potential kind of injury?
Yeah, so kind of like what we were saying before, it's user error.
Right. Yeah. I totally take responsibility. I signed the waiver. 100%. I'm in. Right.
And I'm the same way. I like using bar. I spent 3 years of my life only doing barbell clean and jerks and snatches, doing Olympic weightlifting, and I loved it. And I would like to do that more often. But if I go snatch with a barbell for 30 minutes, my body's just done. I'm tired.
And it's not even good done. Like and again, maybe I'm biased, but there's jujitsu good done where like your feet hurt, your hands hurt. I jokingly tell my wife, I'm like, this is how Bruce Wayne wakes up. Like he's just in fucking pain. But it's a weird pain. It's not like that, oh shit, I can't sit down and take a dump pain. It's like, I feel like I got into a fight, right? Yeah. Whereas the CrossFit workout pain to me was always like, oh God, I can't walk up this flight of stairs. Oh, I can't sit down and take a shit. Like it's just not even like, you can't even just live a normal life,
right?
Exactly.
And that's what, again, I'll always say it's user error.
Absolutely.
I love CrossFit and it's done amazing things for me and it's completely revolutionized fitness. But you throw me in a CrossFit workout 5 times a week, I'm just gonna go ape shit crazy and crush myself because I just can't turn it off. You give me a barbell, I'm throwing 200 pounds, I'm gonna try some snatches, right? And that's heavy, right? If you give me a kettlebell, a heavy snatch might be 106 or 124 pounds. It's still heavy and the level of difficulty is comparable, but at the end of the day, it's still 75 to 100 pounds less on my body. So at the end of the day, I can still really push myself hard using kettlebells and make the level of difficulty high, but the amount of weight just being put on my body is just going to be less by the nature of what they are. So that is what has kind of drawn me to them, is they've allowed me to still train with the same intensity and difficulty that I would like to without just being crushed every day because I can't turn it off. I can't go clean and snatch a barbell and not go heavy. I'm an idiot. So I just need to do that. But when I do that, my body's like, fuck you.
Welcome to Agora Social Club, the Westchester's hub for guys to gather, connect, and unwind. In the last 6 years, I've been facilitating a men's group called the Council of Dudes. And within that 6 years, I've realized that guys need a place where they can get together, connect, and build community. A place that's not the gym, that's not jujitsu, that's not the bar, but a place where guys can come with no ego and grow and develop together. So here we have our chess table. We're gonna be having monthly chess lessons and our take a book, leave a book library. Some of these I've read, some of these I haven't. Quantum physics to personal development to fiction. We also have our record player area. In the last few years, I've become very obsessed with jazz music. And if you don't know how to play vinyl, no big deal. It hooks up to your phone via Bluetooth. We have artwork from California to local artists. We have these small little work tables. So if you want to hang on the couch and get some work done, you can just come pop them open. And we also have our little workspace here with quotes from Muhammad Ali, Albert Einstein, Theodore Roosevelt. We also have our coffee bar, small fridge, and more quotes and artwork over the wall. Head on over to agorasocialclub.com, sign up for our free 7-day trial, and with that, you will get a key fob. Scan your key fob, and you have access to this space from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. So if you're a guy in the Westchester area and you're looking to gather, connect, and unwind with like-minded men, head on over to agorasocialclub.com.
Yeah. I wanted to get into that part of you, but hold on, wait. So, but there is, I mean, I remember ending CrossFit workouts and like laying on that floor and just being fucking, yes, the best feeling, but then also being like, like I am fucking gone.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how in those workouts, you're finding that just that one more, you know, muscle up or that one more kipping pull up or the, you know, the handstand push-ups. There's just that one more. But then when you're done with that, it's like, you're just done.
Drained.
I remember I did one of the open workouts, and it was the row. It was 15.3 or 15.4. It was a row, and then it was
row and thrusters.
Row and thrusters.
27, 21, 18, 15, 12, 9, 6, 3.
Yeah,
maybe.
maybe. Sounds right.
It might have been 27. I remember that workout. 27, 21, 15, 9. I think that's what it was.
And I came out of the row.
Yep. Hot.
Like there was no tomorrow.
Yep.
Came out of the row hot, and I remember getting to the thrusters, right?
Yep.
And I couldn't see. I remember so talk about going to a dark place. I guess CrossFit did put me there in hindsight, right? I couldn't see, and I was just going based off of Coach Chris's cues and just moving.
Yep.
And then I remember my wife had to drive home, and I went in the tub. I had a banana, a slice of pizza, and a kill cliff because I was so fucking done.
Yeah.
It went to talk about dark place, but yeah, that was a fucking brutal workout.
Yeah, I remember that one very vividly.
Yeah, a lot of people do. For some reason, I guess I wasn't the only one.
No, rowing and thrusters is terrible. It's a terrible combo.
Yeah, that's it's brutal. So, what got you into jiu-jitsu?
I think it was the evolution of CrossFit. I had this conversation yesterday. I've had it with a bunch of people. If you did CrossFit in 2016, you probably do jiu-jitsu right now. Or you've at least,
very accurate.
It's the same type of person. You've at least tried it. So I think it's just that. Like I was saying before, I've always been performance-based training. I've always been intrigued with what the human body can do. I don't care about bodybuilding. It doesn't excite me. I've always been more interested in what the body is capable of. So using my fitness. So that started with CrossFit. I then got into Olympic weightlifting just because that was a fun sport for me to get into. But again, performance-based. Got into some random fitness for about 3 or 4 year span while I was like building my career and stuff.
What was the random fitness comprised of?
Just a little bit of CrossFit, a little bit of bodybuilding, a little bit of running, just whatever the hell came to my mind that day. It was nothing structured, which was fine. Long story short though, big Jocko Willink fan, listen to Joe Rogan. I think I'm just in that sphere of listening to people who talk about jiu-jitsu. And I don't know if I had like a moment, but I was thinking of trying it for 6 or 7 months, never did. And then one day I was like, okay, let's just do this. Looked up places near me. Turns out there was one half a mile from my house. I was like, all right, let's go. Yeah. And I just went and like most people, just kind of dove in pretty head first.
How incompetent did you feel that first day? God. And you're a guy who's health and wellness, fitness, you're in great shape. How incompetent and how weak did you feel?
So one of my favorite emails I've ever written is this story of basically going in like, all right, yeah, like I'm strong and physically fit and stuff like that. I obviously will have no idea what I'm doing jiu-jitsu wise, but I didn't realize how much of no idea I was going to have. It was just pathetic.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. I mean, I love it. Looking back on it, it's so funny. And I would love to roll with that person, not my instructor, like day one Pat.
Oh yeah.
I would love to roll with him, but it was the level of helplessness and incompetence is like nothing I've ever experienced. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, so my dad is, he does Japanese jiu-jitsu, and he's very high level. He's done it for 40 plus years. Not so much anymore, but whatever. So two of his students came in. I was talking to two of them, and I was like, I think I'm going to sign up for Japanese jiu-jitsu. They're like, no. Do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. The guy has black belts in both. And I was like, no, I think I'm going to do Japanese. He's like, no. Do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I knew two other guys, two buddies of mine who were comics. And they did. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. They're like, oh, yeah. Like, you're going to love it. And I'm like, why? They're like, you'll see. And it's that same thing. I went in doing CrossFit. I feel like I'm in good shape. I had a little stretch of yoga in between, but and I went and my professor was like 150. Shout out to Joao. And he's like, all right, come back. We'll set up a thing. I was like, all right. I'm like, what should I wear? He's like, basketball shorts. I'm like, cool, I got this. Mounted me, and I was like, oh, I'm helpless. Yeah. I think it's a combination of like being humbled, but then also kind of, is that my phone?
Not me.
Is it me on the green? Oh, that's you. I just hit the top button. My wife, one or the other. And he mounted me, and I was like, oh. So it's a combination of being like super humble, but then also like there was this sense of like, oh, I don't know how to protect myself.
Yep.
Like I don't know what to do if I got into it. Like I think I do. I think I have this false sense of security if I got into a fight, right? But I really have no idea what the fuck I'm doing.
Absolutely no idea.
I'm fucked.
Yeah.
So then that was like the rabbit hole. And then obviously, we start, with I'm a big gi guy, I like gi better. Yeah. And there was the warm up, and we're warming up, and with the gi on, I'm like, I'm tired. Like I'm tired I thought I was in good shape, but this is a different type of shape.
There's nothing like getting your ass kicked shape, because it's the only time, at least that I've felt, is because I've even done like boxing for fitness. I've sparred like once. So I like punch stuff to get in shape. So I've done a
punch
lot.
Things.
That's the way I describe it. It's like, any workout is there's a level of intensity you can bring yourself in a workout, but you can't replicate somebody else fighting you back. And then on top of that, the adrenaline and anxiety that comes with that. You can't replicate it doing anything.
Yeah.
So that just quadruples your heart rate. It's the most exhausting thing there is.
Yeah. And then trying to match the energy while staying calm, while, diving into the bag of some experience that you could pull out of some type of move that maybe you could execute, right?
Use your technique.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have any yet. Like, what is my technique?
I know.
But it does feel, there's something about jiu-jitsu that's the most rewarding thing physically that I could do.
I agree.
And I don't know if it's the stripes, I don't know if it's the belts, I don't know what it is, but there's something about like the feedback that you get from that. And maybe it's like the small incremental progression that you see yourself growing and changing, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I do know I'm a purple belt at this point. So I'm like, oh, I kind of know some jiu-jitsu, right?
I'd say so.
Yeah, I would, but realistically, I'm like, I don't know shit. Like there are days I leave there, I'm like, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And I don't think you get that from any other type of fitness.
No. And unfortunately, that it really depends on the type of person. A lot of people would walk away from that and be like, fuck this. I'm not learning anything. I'm not getting better, this and that. And, they can't deal with the ebbs and flows of it. And they want something that's a little bit more linear. Like, okay, I could put 5 pounds on the barbell this Monday, and then put 5 more on Monday, and then put 5 more on the next Monday, and so on. But the ebbs and flows of jiu-jitsu is unmatched, at least from what I've tried. And if you're the type of person that likes that, there's nothing more addicting than that.
It's
nothing.
so addicting.
I know.
And it's interesting because I'll say like everyone gets a good workout, no matter what reason you go there for, but there's people there to go to like compete, and those guys are very different breeds of human beings, and I love those human beings because when you roll with them, you're like, oh, this is different now. This is different. And then there's like, for me, it's like great workout, but the headiness to it. Like I love, again, going back to what we were saying before, like that's why I love like trail running more so than like street running. Yes. Like I like the idea of like just going down the rabbit hole.
Forget about everything that's going on. There's no phone, there's no nothing. And it's just, like you said, it's the good flow of trail running where you have to pay attention a little bit, but it's not so hard that you're getting frustrated. And it's also not too easy that you're bored. That's the beauty of it. And, you know, there are some days that it kind of sways in a different direction where you're getting shit kicked out of you so hard, you're getting frustrated. But most of the time, you get into that flow if you have good partners and you're practicing what you're supposed to be practicing of just, like you said, the headiness. And all of a sudden, you're like, an hour went by. That was crazy fast.
Yeah. Those 6:15 morning classes, they quickly turned to like 8:30. My wife's like, where the hell were you? I was like, it's like those Honduras rounds, the class, and that also obviously added the camaraderie to it.
Great.
And like you could spend 2 hours just talking philosophy afterwards, like on a jiu-jitsu mat. You're like, this is the best. When you were in that Bermuda Triangle of like, and that's kind of where I am right now. It's like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, do I want to run? I kind of enjoy running, but I also kind of fucking hate it. You know, all these things. How important is sticking to one particular program and one particular thing? Because, you know, you can get caught up in I'm going to do this thing. Now there's like high rocks. There's all these different expressions of fitness, which are all great. But how important is it to be like, I'm doing this one particular thing?
I think that period of time, I think I was like 20, when I started jiu-jitsu 27, so I was probably 24 to 27 in that time frame. So it was about 3 years. I think that's where I kind of developed my philosophy on fitness, where to answer your question is, it really depends on your goals, because it might not actually matter that you stick with one thing at all. If your goal is to just be in shape, look a little bit better, feel better about yourself, be a little stronger, a little more mobile, and just kind of be this 80 to 75% good at everything and not like really good at one thing. So if your goal is just be overall fit, do whatever the fuck you want every day. And like some sort of light blueprint and some sort of idea, but for the most part, if you just want to feel better and be in better shape, you can do whatever the hell you want. If you have specific goals, I want to lose X amount of weight, I want to back squat this amount of weight, I want to get bigger biceps, whatever it is, then you're going to have to follow something and stay fairly structured. But I'm not an overly structured person when it comes to my fitness and my workouts, and I'm not a huge proponent of overly structured fitness, because
that's funny coming from someone who does programming for fitness, right? Like you would think it'd be the opposite.
But and all the people on my program have specific goals of like, I need to get in, right? They're not looking to set kettlebell world records. They're looking to do fun, effective, and time-efficient workouts that they can do from home. Kettlebells allow them to do that. It's not that the kettlebell is the greatest thing in the entire world. That's just the tool that we use to achieve their goals. And a lot of people might just be okay with doing normal fitness and just getting pretty good results because they don't want to eat grilled chicken and broccoli every single day, and they don't want to not be able to sit on the toilet because their legs are so sore. They just want to be pretty good and okay at everything, and a lot of people are happy with that. Now, I also think on the flip side, some people are kind of lying to themselves, saying like, no, I'm good where I'm at, this and that, when deep down they're like, I really would like to lose 10 pounds. Then we have to maybe be a little bit more structured, but it really depends on the person's goals and what they're looking for, and them being honest with themselves. Because I think it's why CrossFit, I think, has done so well, besides all of the things that like attract people to it. It gets people in good overall shape, and you can make the argument that the workouts are pretty fucking random. You might back squat every Monday for 6 weeks, but then you're gonna like overhead squat every Monday for 6 weeks. It's what I call constantly varied, or they call it constantly varied, but structurally, it's kind of, you know, you're throwing stuff at a wall and just you're just making people move and getting them fit, and it works for most of the population. It just really depends on the person and what they want.
Yeah, and if you break that down, it's like that makes the most amount of sense, right? It's like just move your body in some way, shape, or form, add some weight to it here and there, right? Run, eat steak.
That's it.
right.
But that's what CrossFit's original tagline was. I might screw this up. Constantly varied functional movements at high intensities, right? Or across broad. I'm messing this up a little bit. It's been a while, but it's basically just like, do a bunch of stuff like, back squat and run a 5K and do some wall balls and a thruster workout. Like, be able to do a little bit of everything. Because for most people, that's all they care about. Yeah. You know, they don't want to sacrifice everything else that they probably need to sacrifice to get these goals that influencers are telling them they should care about. Yeah. They don't actually care.
Yeah.
But again, if you're like, I want to do high rocks in 6 months, like, hey, you better start fucking running.
Yeah.
Right? But if you don't, and you're just like, I want to be fit, do whatever you want. Do something. But go do whatever you want. If you're waking up and your goal is just be fit, you're like, holy shit, it's 30 degrees out. I don't want to run. Go swing some kettlebells in your garage.
Right.
And then run tomorrow.
Right.
It's okay. It's not that serious.
Yeah, that's the other part of it. It's not that serious. And when you have social media and you have people that are out there that are, their job, their career is building health and wellness and fitness and a brand and all of these things, which are all fucking awesome. As the novice, right, look on the outside looking in, it becomes that serious. And going back to those CrossFit days, you know, and it's really about a relationship that you have with yourself. And I think you said it perfectly. It's like, how do you want to show up in the world, and how do you want to energetically be, right? When I was doing CrossFit 5 days a week, whatever it was, and I was in good shape, I was very angry. I was listening to Slipknot and like fucking clanging and banging. And that served me at that time. But now that I have a different mindset, I have a totally different approach to life. It's like that type of approach to lifting is not sustainable for me. Like that mindset is not sustainable for me. I much rather go do yoga and jujitsu and pair those two in some way, shape, or form than do, again, a CrossFit workout. Again, that's just me. But it's so important to kind of also know how your own operating system works in order to show up in a way that is healthier, that is fit, that is like, hey, I just want to play with my kids and not fucking herniate my disc, right? Like, and not fucking throw out my back.
Exactly. And like you said, is I think you just said, like, knowing your own operating system. And that is my whole philosophy and overarching thing is it might be difficult, but you got to try a bunch of stuff. There's something out there that you and somebody else likes to do physically. They just have to try it. The issue is most of the fitness industry and social media is like, it has to be bodybuilding or whatever, this other thing. And it's like, oh, I tried bodybuilding and it didn't work. So maybe working out's not for me. Or like, this is boring, but like, this is the only way I know about working out. It's like that person who's bored as hell doing a bodybuilding split might love going to yoga 6 times a week. They just haven't tried it yet. And they might hate yoga and then be like, okay, I got to go try something else. Maybe they love doing the Peloton. Cool, do the Peloton 5 times a week. But I think people are caught up in these are the ways we're supposed to work out. And like I was saying before, bodybuilding just took over the fitness industry years ago. Now everybody thinks that's what fitness is, and it's just not. So I think.
Do you think that's changing at all? Because I think
big time changing.
Yeah, I think so too. Because you are seeing more guys and more people in general who, yes, bodybuilding is still a very big. I'm sorry to say, I can't. I know it's a sport.
Yeah.
But my brain doesn't conceptualize that it's a sport. Same way chess is a sport. Right?
It's more of a sport than it is fitness.
Explain.
So bodybuilding only, I would define fitness, right? You looked at me and you said, you're fit.
Yeah.
You probably took that as he's probably pretty flexible. He can go for a run. He could fight somebody, but you also know I do jujitsu.
Right.
He can lift some weights. He's got some muscle. He looks powerful, athletic, and all these different things.
Right.
Muscle building was one of those. And I could probably list off 10 more different things that you maybe would define fitness as, or as I was. Bodybuilding only cares about one thing. It's building enough, as a specific amount of muscle to a specific aesthetic. It's actually not even just building as much as you can. You have to be aesthetically pleasing. That is one small piece of the pie chart of fitness. It is way more sport than it is fitness. Also, look at a bodybuilding show. Would you look at any of those people and say, they look healthy and fit?
No.
They're not. They're destroyed. Their bodies are a mess. Bodybuilding is a small piece of the pie chart when it comes to fitness. Bodybuilding is way more of a sport. I don't consider it fitness at all. It's a route to get a little bit more fit, but if you just do bodybuilding, that's, in my opinion, not fully fitness. It's a sport.
Yeah.
It's like going to play, how would I describe this? I can't think of the analogy off the top of my head. I was going to say something, but yeah, it's just, it's a sport.
Yeah.
It's a sport. It can be your form of fitness or type, but yeah, that's the way I describe it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I see it as. I don't know if I see it as a sport. I mean, same way I don't really see chess as a sport, but it's technically a sport, right? It's a game.
By the I actually took a class that talked about this once in college, and it was like, but I forget the exact definition. By the definition of what a sport is, it's like a governing body competing.
Yeah, I get that. But like then we think of like traditional sports.
Yeah. It's definitely not baseball, hockey, or football. But,
right.
It's a sport.
Yeah.
It is.
How important has nutrition been with you and obviously and your clients? Because obviously you can't, what's the old expression? You can't outwork a bad diet, right? You know, that old thing, that old gag. So I try to do more carnivore based. It's just what, yes, it was a very big trend, I think, obviously. And I think you catch trends and obviously same way that CrossFit was and it segued to jiu-jitsu for me. But inside of catching a trend, you might find something that actually works for you. So for me, I like steak. I like burgers. I'm not a big pasta guy, believe it or not. I don't love pizza. Never really have. Never. It's just never my thing. But I like steak and burgers. And I was like, I went 30 days, very strict carnivore based. And I was like, oh, this just happens to work for me. So I would say 80% of my diet's carnivore. 10% is a variation of that. Like I'll add rice or sweet potato. And then the other 10% is like whatever the fuck I want. You know what I mean? I'll just go off the rails. So how important has that been in regards to like what you're doing and what is your particular diet?
My particular diet, or
eating lifestyle, because I hate the word diet.
My eating lifestyle, I like that. That's a better way to put it. Kind of similar to yours. It's definitely heavy on the meat and eggs, rice. I probably have a little bit more rice than you, but heavy on the meat and eggs, rice, salads
rice.
And stuff like this. Rice is the best.
It's the
I was kind of going through that carnivore-ish style phase, so I cut rice out for a long time, and then I put it back in. I was like, oh, what was I doing?
And the fact that I can add butter to this, it's like even better.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So I'm kind of in the same route as you, at least for myself, but same situation. And again, it's my same philosophy. I'm probably not the best influencer because I don't have like a hard stance on anything. Is you have to, same thing with your workouts, you have to dabble and play around with your diet, probably even more so than your workouts to figure out what works for you. The human body's just way too complex to say, this is the way. It might be the way for 10,000 people and it might be not at all the way for 10,000 other people. So I think there's a lot of trial and error that has to come into play for people's diets. But at the end of the day, you could probably follow the overarching themes of like, I don't necessarily agree with vegan or vegetarian, so I'll put that off the side. Eat meat, eat some vegetables, fruit, and drink your water and stay away from junk food the best that you can most of the time. Most people follow that. They're going to be okay. The route that they take, whether it's keto or Atkins or Weight Watchers or carnivore, whatever it is, it's all kind of just different ways to get to the same goal, in my opinion.
It's funny when you start to eat when I had that 30 days, I mean, I was like, I didn't have a fucking grain of rice. Like I was dialed in. I told my wife, I was like, listen, I'm going to do a really carnivore based diet. I'm just, just want to see what happens. Just do it for 30 days. And I was like raw dairy, cheese, the honey, the fruit, the whole bit. And she's like, all right, cool, but I want you to get blood work done because I haven't had blood work done ever. And I went and got my blood work done and they were like, whatever you're doing, just keep on doing it. Like your levels are fucking perfect. Like everything was dialed in and I drink a lot of coffee and they're like, that's fine. Whatever you're doing, just keep on doing it because everything is fucking dialed in. I was like, all right, cool. This is fine. But you would think based off of what, we've been taught culturally, it's like, steak, eggs, that's not good for you, right? And we're seeing that same type of, and due to social media, you're seeing that breaking of the mold of what conventional medicine and doctors and workouts say versus what it is now, where it's like, no, you could do all these other things that aren't that, and it's healthier.
Absolutely. Social media in a good way has played a good role in that I think it's given a lot of your everyday person permission to try things that they might not normally have either heard of or tried based off of specific recommendations from people.
Yeah. I think you said something that's really important, and I think it also equates to life in general, is that, the idea of like trying new things and playing, right? It's so much of that is what you're talking about on your journey is like, hey, I did this thing and then I tried something else, or hey, I did this thing and then I tried this and then I got into jiu-jitsu. And, I'm very similar to that. Like I'll try and explore new things because, novelty is what life's all about, right? Seeking novelty and experiencing it. But I think also having that approach to life, like a child, right? Like that's one thing that I admire about my children, 9 and 5, is like, they're always trying new things. They always want to explore new things. They always want to play with new toys. And just, the magic of life is kind of always unfolding before them. And as we get older, we really do start to lose that sense of magic and we start to lose that sense of novelty because, and exactly what we were saying before, is like, we're afraid to fail. We're afraid to be, kind of on the jujitsu mat and be the guy who's in the white belt with the gi that's the belt's all tied fucked up, and you're like, oh fuck. And it's interesting because I would love to roll with that guy, the original Vinny too, and be like, just keep on going, right? If you find something, even if it doesn't work at first, right? Like it's so important to try new things.
Yeah. I completely agree. My kind of life mantra is you never fucking know.
Yeah.
Like just try it. If it doesn't work, then that's fine. I sat on my ass for 7 months, deciding whether or not I should start jujitsu, and I kicked myself that I didn't start 7 months earlier than I did. And there are other things that I've tried where, hey, it maybe worked for a month and then it just didn't really stick, and that's totally okay. And I just think people are afraid to either fail or not be good at something, or just think it's not going to be worth it, when even if it's not, what do you lose? A week, a day, a month? It's really not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. So, whether it's physically, a diet, business, or anything like that, just try it, because one, most people don't care, right? Like most outside people, right? When you're a white belt day one, I remember it like it was yesterday. I went to grab this guy. It was the first time I ever actually rolled. And he was like, have you ever rolled before? I was like, damn, I'm a bitch. He knows it. The second I grabbed him, right? So in my head,
You're like,
that's exactly what happened. So in my head, I'm like, oh my God, he thinks I suck, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And some people might let that bother them and then never come back. But now, like we were just saying, if I could roll with that guy, be like, oh, it's his first day. This is awesome. And then, kick his ass for a few minutes. And then once you're done, be like, dude, nice job. Try doing this, and that, and just stay with it. Because most people don't know and they don't care. And they've probably been in the same position you are before as well.
Yeah. We were talking before we started recording of the idea of just kind of expressing your mind on paper, right? And like kind of coming up against these blocks that we have. And it's like, I just got to get these ideas out of my head. And that really also lends itself to the idea of like tapping into a version of yourself that ultimately you want to be, but then also not allowing yourself to put the governor on your own engine of being like, well, I don't want to put this out there. Or, so as a social media influencer, which I know you always are like, yeah, that's what I do. How do you manage that internal dialogue? How do you manage the idea of like, I don't want to put or do you just kind of put it all on the table?
I definitely filter a little bit of what I do, only because now at this point, social media is a business, and I'm like the kettlebell guy in a sense. So I definitely, and then look, they're a huge part of my life. I love them. They're awesome and this and that, but there are definitely some things that I'll throw it in an email so it doesn't go out to 370,000 people. Maybe it just goes out to a smaller group, or maybe I'll even just write it down on a piece of paper just to get the idea out there, or I'll just start to throw little things in there. Maybe it's just one post a week or one post a month, or I'm putting a story up of just something that I'm kind of interested in. It's just lightly kind of throwing those ideas out there and just expressing them maybe through a way that's not going to be as
heavy-handed.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So I'd say that's kind of the way I like to try and go about it, is just kind of throw them out there just a little bit here and there, but still keep my overarching goal and aesthetic, what I'm still currently building.
Yeah. Do you feel like you are boxed in as a kettlebell guy? Like if you want to be like, fuck kettlebells, and just like, fuck this shit, I'm over it.
Fortunately, I still really like them.
Okay, good.
Them. But I could see how people get into that position though. And one of the things I've always tried to stay true to is just being myself and being very genuine and as true to myself as I can be on social media, to where if I did decide tomorrow, like, all right, fuck these things, I don't care, I'm going to do just yoga, I feel like I could do that. And like a lot of people would be pissed off. They'd be like, all right, that's just Pat though.
Pat did ayahuasca and I want to do yoga.
Yeah. But yeah, something like that. But I think people tend to paint themselves a little too much sometimes on social media, and they do get stuck. I like to think I didn't do that. I obviously have a large amount of people following me for a specific reason, is to give them kettlebell stuff, which is fine because that's what I do anyway. Right. But I do think if I decided to just pull a hard right turn in a week, I would be able to maneuver that.
So what would that hard, if you had to pull a hard right turn in a week, what do you think that hard right turn would be?
Like right now?
Right now.
If you told me tomorrow you're not allowed to post any more kettlebells.
No more kettlebells, you're done.
I would probably start posting about how to build, how to create content, how to build a personal brand, how to build a business, and how to market with social media as the main tool.
I'm going to say bird watching or something.
No, nothing. No, I got to pick something I actually know what I'm doing with.
So that being said, the hard right turn of building a brand, social media obviously is a platform for a lot of people that are building brands. How does one build a brand like you have?
Is consistency is, well, one, you have to start. That is the biggest problem that I think I hear. You know, you have the man in the arena quote on the wall right there. That's the biggest hurdle that so many people, coaches, trainers, like whoever, any coach, right? Yoga, baseball, anybody who's posting stuff on social media, a lot of people are so afraid to start. And it's the same thing we were talking about with the jiu-jitsu white belt. Like nobody cares. Nobody's looking at you and be like, wow, that person's content sucks. Right. Like nobody cares. And the good part
but inside your head, you hear it all the time.
You hear it all the time, right? You're your own worst enemy.
Always.
And the good part is when you're new, there's not a lot of people looking. So, and the ones that are, they just don't care. So just start and then just be consistent and have a clear message. That's going to be the most important part to start out with, and then help people. People are on social media nowadays for information. Unless you're a comedian, you're not there to necessarily entertain them. That can always be a factor in what you're posting. But I have this term, take homeable. Every piece of content should have a piece that's take homeable. For me to be like, Vinny said I should meditate for 10 minutes doing this type of breathing technique. I tried it. It was really good. I'm going to continue to see what he has to say. That's the most important part. Information. That's what people want now.
Yeah. It's information overload though, right? Yes. There's so much out there. I discover new people every day and I'm like, oh, I like this. I like that. Or, and it can be overwhelming in that regard. But again, I think a big part of it is, it's like you're finding your own like little community that's bigger than yourself, right? Like you're finding all these people like, oh, I like following this guy. I like his, like you said before, like I like Jocko, I like Rogan. Like you start following these people and they start to, the way they think or the things they're reading or the influence or the experiences that they have now offer you an opportunity to go down those rabbit holes and explore those options and those things. Like I'm a huge sensory deprivation guy. Knew about it before Rogan because, The Simpsons did an episode on it and there's, it's always been kind of in my zeitgeist. And then Rogan was kind of like the catalyst. I was like, oh shit, like I gotta get in a tank. But again, having the reach to these people now or to whomever, it could be anybody, now opens up like food. Right now, my entire inbox is all DIY and how to like organize your kitchen and cabinets and it's like click, comment, shop. I'm like, shop, send, yes. Like all these things, it's like flooding my inbox. Because right now in my world, it's like, how do I get a little bit more organized in the new year? How do I, condense these things? How do I purge, right? So it can be information overload, but it also does serve as an opportunity to get information and learn and you're exposed to all these different variables and people.
Yeah. And that's, like you said, the information overload, at least from the content creation standpoint, that's where having a very clear message and simplifying things is really important, because I think information overload gets overloading for people when it's so much complexity. And it's information overload because I personally think a lot of people are taking in information that they don't fully understand or know what the person is saying. At least that's my take on it. And I think when you find somebody, because I've gone through these routes where, I'll really dive in pretty hard on somebody's Instagram, and it's because their message just makes sense to me and they make things very simple. If I wanted to learn how to meditate and I'm following 10 accounts, one of them is going to stick out because their message speaks to me and they make things a little bit simpler for me. So I think that's something as well, at least from like a creation standpoint, on how you can stick out a little bit or how you can try and, as a consumer, not have so much information overload, is try and focus in on one or two people that speak to you the best.
Yeah. But then you also, from the content aspect of it, and obviously you've done a really good job of this, of like niching down, niche, whatever the fuck the word is. It goes back, I have no idea. But you've done that in your own right because you've found your lane, which is kettlebells in this particular case, and you've honed in on that. So, it's also important to stay authentic to who you are as a creator, because then that authenticity comes through versus if you're like, okay, today we're going to do whatever, and it's not true to who you are. People pick up on the bullshit. Like our bullshit radars are very, very tuned.
People's bullshit radars are very tuned nowadays. And I think there's a big shift in social media with that, is people want a little bit more authenticity. They want to think that they want you to seem like just a real person who just happens.
Which you are a real person. Like it's like at the end of the day, it's like you
but
know.
a lot of people put on this facade, not facade, but like a lot of people put themselves out there as not necessarily a real person. People want to know and feel like you're a real person that just happens to be really good at this one thing that they're interested in. And that's the way I try and portray myself is like, yeah, here's a story of my cat. Here's me at a wedding. Yeah, I'm having a beer. I ate French fries, or like, I'm just a real person. Like I try and make, you know, things aren't super crisp and cookie cutter. The content's clean, but you know, sometimes my cat walks in front of the kettlebell, so I have to move him. Like I'm just a regular dude who just happens to be pretty good at one thing that you care about. So that's why you're following me.
Right.
That's the way I try and portray myself. And I think, like you said, people's bullshit radars and unrealistic radars are going off left and right, and they're over it.
Yeah.
They don't care. People are smarter than we think in that realm. They pick up on that stuff.
Yeah. You could definitely lock the cat out of the room, right? You could.
Well, I could, but I opened so I'm working out inside because it's cold as shit in my garage.
Right.
But the room I'm in is where like all of the heat comes out of. So when I'm working out, it gets really hot. So I have to open the door to then get a little bit
cross
of
breeze.
ventilation. Yeah. And then I got to open the window because I'm so hot. And then he jumps in the window. So that's why he's in there. It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. And listen, let the cat be in the video.
People comment on it all the time. It's slightly intentional at this point.
If I'm being honest, the cat's a part of the skit, right?
I always say we got to play the game a little bit. There's little tricks and tips that you could throw in there to just force a few more comments.
Yeah. The comments are. So how do you get any hate on the comment side of it, especially being a fitness influencer?
I wouldn't say hate, it's just people saying dumb shit.
Like, what's an example of dumb shit?
You know, that's not optimal. You should just do regular lifting. There's no such thing as functional strength. You're going to destroy your back swinging a 70-pound kettlebell. Like, it just dumb stuff that people, it's usually, I'd say almost always, it's people who don't actually understand. And I mean that like almost as a compliment,
right.
Is they're probably in the bodybuilding phase of their fitness career, whether it's forever or just started. They're listening to a bunch of fitness influencers or bodybuilding influencers as you're saying X, Y, and Z, and then they're just reiterating that information onto my page when they don't fully understand it.
Right.
It's like they're making comments about things that my training isn't meant to do.
Right. It's like when people say, "Oh, jiu-jitsu doesn't really work." You're
Yeah,
all right. It kind of does.
Yeah, it wouldn't work if I went to try and roll with Conor McGregor, but it works.
Right.
One of those things.
Right. Yeah, people have again, it kind of goes back to that previous point of like a false sense of identity, especially when it comes to like the relationship they have. Because again, being on the other side of a phone or whatever apparatus they're using, there's a comfort level and a disconnect that they feel very comfortable. Like, fuck you, dick.
Exactly.
Whereas at the same time, it's like, just let me do my thing and leave me the fuck alone.
That's it. And that's what I say. Like now, I don't care anymore. I'll read them and they kind of like bother me for a little bit.
Do they?
But yeah, I've gotten good at not responding like an asshole, like I would like to. I'm just like, all right. A lot of times I'll just say, okay. Because like,
Which is the ultimate.
There's nothing they could say back. I don't care. Because realistically, like, I want to put out information for a specific type of person or someone who's interested in what I'm doing. If you are the person that comes onto my page and doesn't follow me and says, this is stupid, you should be doing regular training instead, like, okay, I don't care. You're never going to buy anything from me. You're obviously not interested in what I'm doing. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Right. I don't care about that person. It's fine. I'd rather put more energy into the people that like what I'm doing.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Energy is such in so many facets of life, it's such a finite resource. Like, you really have to allocate it to the things that really fill your cup, so to speak, that really there's an ROI on it, and not necessarily a financial one, but an energetic one. And as you follow that energetic return, it starts to now compound and grow and grow. But if you start allocating your energy to the smallest nonsense, and it could be in any facet of life, it could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be whatever it is, it can be, I mean, it's just
draining.
It's draining.
I was really bad with it for a while on social media, and I've gotten better at it, thankfully, because it would get to me a lot and it bothered me. Yeah. And I'd be kind of an asshole back or ruin my day, and it was bad for a little bit.
Yeah. I want to go back to the part where you were saying about when you go into a CrossFit class, you have to do 200 and so, like, you have to go completely balls to the wall. Yes. What do you think that is? Like, what comes up in the sense of like, I need to be, yeah.
I have a few different theories. One, being from New York, it's just in me. I have a theory of the New Yorkers just in me, and I. Can't turn that off. I've been here my whole life. So I have that theory. I think people are very into the thing that got them where they are. So what I mean by that is somebody loses 100 pounds with the keto diet. They love the keto diet, right? When I started working out, I was like 14 years old. Instagram didn't exist. YouTube kind of sort of, like nobody was putting information out there unless you went and bought a magazine or was reading blogs. I was 14. I wasn't doing that. I was just like, I'll walk into the gym and work hard. That was all I knew.
What made you want to do that?
I first started by trying to get better at baseball, or I wanted to get in shape to get better at baseball, and then I just started to like it. So it stuck. But that was my philosophy. I was like, I'm 14 years old. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'll pick up some stuff from YouTube, but for the most part, my process was go in, work hard. That's your only protocol. And it worked. So I just always stuck with that. So I think I take that into something like a CrossFit class or a high intensity workout is like, just go hard and things will work. I'm also unbelievably competitive. If I'm in a CrossFit class, I want to win. I just do. I've always been that way.
Really?
I'm a competitive person. Yeah. I want to beat everybody. I don't care if you're a 44-year-old mom. I'm going to beat you.
Yes, you probably will.
Yes. Well, CrossFit's really good at making everybody do the same workout. We just change weights or skills or something that you're doing. So I just want to win. I like competition. I'm sure you could dig real.
No, I'm just. Well, first I want to go into the New York thing because there's definitely something to that because there's something about like New York energy and like we're obviously in Westchester, New York. So we're time-wise, 20 minutes outside the city if we're buzzing, and then obviously with traffic, it's a different ballgame. But it starts to like if you take like New York City as the nucleus of that energy, right? And you start to spread it, right? You feel it when you're up here. Like even when I'm taking my kids to school, right? And it's a little congested more so now than it was before, but you're taking kids to school, there's people going to the train. It's like, there's a buzz in the air that like you may not, it's not tangible, but you could fucking feel it. It's just like, there's an intensity to it. Yeah. And I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
I think I thrive on it. I think I'm like you in the sense, like even before here, I had to go do this, drive here, go there. And it gives me anxiety. Like I'm sitting in my car, like I'm having a fucking anxiety if I'm with my kids. So I'm like, I gotta stay cool. But I think there's something to that. I think there is something to like being, again, like there's an energy to it. Like same thing as you go to Florida, you're waiting on like, hurry the fuck up. I gotta go. Like, you know what I mean? But there is a real energy to it. And that's interesting. That's a real interesting lens to have it on in regards to how it translates to like fitness and wellness.
Yeah. Well, I think it translates to everything. I think my whole life is a little intense. Go, work hard, go getter. I take the same philosophy into my business and to most things that I do is pretty dive in head first and get after it.
What do you do to slow down?
Still working on that.
Nothing.
Jiu-jitsu helps.
It's not slowing down.
It's supposed to be, but I'm not good at that part yet.
Yeah.
I don't slow down enough. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get better at incorporating something like a meditation a little bit more. I do, writing does help me. It kind of like calms me down a little bit. I write a little bit like actually in a notebook at night. I wouldn't consider it journaling. I kind of just like write the highlights of the day. So I'm more mindful of it throughout the day, but I don't do enough to slow down. I know that.
Yeah. Journaling is weird because people have this relationship with journaling that it needs to be, and again, you could carve it up to social media, whatever it is, but it needs to be this formal, structured, dear diary, right? And you're sitting down with a fucking chai tea and like, hold the candles lit. And I love all that. But for me, journaling has become a thing where I keep a notebook. I have like 75 notebooks in my bag, but I have a notebook that I just keep on me at all times. Sometimes it's to take actual notes. And then sometimes I'll just have a wave of something, excitement, frustration, anger, joy, gratitude, or whatever it is. And I'll just jot it down. Like I'll just make another line and just write like, I'm feeling whatever. And that's what my journaling practice has just kind of evolved to be. Because so many times that like, I don't wake up at 4 a.m. at this current season of my life, right? I've done it. I loved it. I see the value in it, but where I am right now, it doesn't work for me. Yeah. Or even going to bed, it's like right now I'm not at the time where I could like, dear diary, I'm grateful for all this bullshit, right? It's like I don't have the capacity right now to do it, but I still want to get the thoughts that are going around in my mind out, right? I need to put them out because again, it's like a to-do list, right? If it just stays up here, it becomes, what the fuck? What do I got to, like, what's next? When do I have the dentist appointment? But if you put it all down and you start checking things off, it does kind of take it out and put it onto a tangible space. So my relationship with journaling has changed over the years, and I don't think anything's right or wrong. I think it's just a matter of what fits your lifestyle.
Yeah, and I think I've unintentionally developed a little bit of a style, like you were saying, because I keep a notebook with me throughout the day as well. It's more so a to-do list type of notebook, right? But a lot of what I do is content and emails and posting and stuff like that. So those ideas just kind of flow and come to my head. And if I'm with clients for 4 or 5 hours, I don't have time to go. I obviously can't go to my computer and start typing. So I'll write down, oh, this content idea came to my head. I'll write it down on the notebook, and then later in that day or later in the week, actually go type it out and turn it into a little bit more of a thought out idea. So I think I kind of do a similar concept, but it's also kind of work. So I don't know if those kind of go hand in hand, but we were saying before we got on, writing out emails is a little therapeutic for me. It's kind of like a diary in a sense where it's just these thoughts are in my head. Let me get them out to people. But it's also work. So I'm kind of cheating in that sense. I definitely don't do enough to just actually slow down for myself.
Yeah. What would ideal slowing down look like? Like what would that?
When I'm somewhat consistent with meditation, it feels nice. Yeah. I've been better at going on walks too. I've started to enjoy those and see the tangible benefits of that. Yeah. Just walking for 30 minutes, listening to something or not. So that and a little bit of meditation, just quiet time, get away from my phone, get away from the computer, and just try and think about stuff.
Yeah, walking's the fucking best, man.
I've really started to like it more.
Walking has, and again, I don't do it enough of it, not even close, but like, there have been those summer nights where it's like, all right, we're done with dinner, let's go for a family walk. And maybe it's having the kids and stuff and like their exploratory nature, but even just walking like just down I think we dismiss it so easily, like how amazing the world around us is. Like I went into Manhattan with my 2 sisters a few nights ago. I hate Manhattan, as I said, but we had to go through it. And they started talking about some other stuff. I was like, does anyone else like we were driving through Times Square. I was like, does anyone else fucking look around? Like, does anybody like look around you?
Times Square is crazy when you look around.
Stimulation overload, but it's like we are in a fucking... I don't even know what we're in. We're in a snow globe of fucking alternate reality. Like, look around you. It's fucking crazy. Yeah. And that experience is always around us. Like even just walking down the street, like if you really look around and you pay attention to everything that's happening all at once, it really is like fucking magical. Yes. And when you carve out that time to really realize that, that's really like a slowing down process. Like when you start to be really present in your movement and in your mindset, that's something like even just having conversations like these, like it carves out time to like slow down. Yeah.
No, it's a good way to put it. I remember I did a podcast once and he said, when you're done with it, it should feel like a therapy session. You should feel like you got it all out and you feel relaxed and you feel great after it.
Yeah. Yeah. Walking is great. Meditating the problem with meditating for a lot of people, and it goes back to the jiu-jitsu thing, is like, I'm not good at this, so therefore I'm not going to do it.
I've gotten over that.
Yeah.
I've gotten past that point, which is nice, where I don't like necessarily control my breathing. Sometimes I will. I'll just put headphones on, put like some Spotify peaceful meditation playlist on, and just sit for 10, 12, or 15 minutes, and whatever happens, happens. Yeah. If I think of everything and don't think about my breath for 1 second, I'm okay. I just need to be more consistent with it. Yeah. I've gotten past caring about sucking at it.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's about, because again, I think that people have this idea that meditating should be like turning off your brain. It's like, that's a level of meditation that, God willing, we all get there. And I've experienced it, as I've mentioned before, like in the sensory deprivation tank, like that complete loss of self, which is the best. But so much of it really does boil down to like the first 20 minutes of it's like my to-do list. I'm just like, oh fuck, I gotta do this and go there and pick up the kids and this and what's it like, and it's all that. And then once all that dust settles, and I talk about this kind of often, it's like once that first 20 minutes of dust settling comes in, it's like then all the other shit like starts to come up. And that's like where the depth of self comes up. And that's where like that inner self starts to come to the surface. And that's when you can interface with, you know, those other thoughts that maybe like you're not interfacing with when you're on the go all the time, you know? But yeah, meditating is amazing. Journaling's a great practice. Those mindful walks are huge, you know? But yeah, I'm a huge advocate of any of the things that slow you down. You know, I need to be the opposite. I need to be more, go in some regard.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough to change. It takes a lot to change that. Cause I think it's people kind of naturally going into where their personality leads them to. Right. And it's like adding working out into the routine. It's not easy. Right. You have to do it enough and it's going to be uncomfortable until it's a little bit of a habit. What's
your schedule like? Are you like a 4 a.m. early riser? Hey, we're gonna fucking, have our cold plunges and all our saunas and red light and...
No, so I have the worst fitness influencer morning routine that exists.
You're like, wake up at 9. Like
no, so I wake up at 4:30 because I have to. I have clients at 6 every day.
Right.
So I would rather not.
Right.
But even on days like today, it's Tuesday. I don't go into the gym, so I have no clients in the morning. I'll still wake up at 6. And then on a normal day, so if I have to go into the gym, I wake up, I pour my coffee, I sit at my desk, I chill for a second, drink it, get ready and go. That's it. There's no 4 a.m. cold plunge. I'm not Sean Degnan. I'm not Dave. Yeah. So very basic there. And on a day like today where I don't have to go in, I'll wake up at 6, I'll pour my coffee, I go to the computer, and then I just start writing. That's kind of been a really therapeutic thing for me that I'm enjoying a lot. Yeah. Because I seem to be the most creative in the morning.
Yeah.
So when I can sit down at my computer right away and not have a specific time that I need to leave, it's really nice. Yeah. Because usually I've run into the issue where I'll wake up, have my coffee, start working a little bit or like writing an email or thinking of post ideas, and then clock hits a certain time, I need to leave and go get clients.
Right.
So it's been nice to have that at least one day where I can just let it fly.
Yeah, no, there is something too. So I had my stretch of waking up at 4:30 in the morning. I was either doing yoga or a run or something of that nature, and then doing the sauna, then doing the plunge. And there is something to that routine. And whether it be all placebo, quite frankly, I don't give a shit.
Placebo effect's real.
It's a real thing, and it's all a placebo anyway, so what the fuck's the difference? But there is something to that routine that's very like, it's a powerful way to start your day. But I think that realizing again who and what you are and playing to your strengths, and not to say like don't lean into the weaknesses, but playing into what fits your lifestyle, it changes over time. And there is something. Do you ever read the 5 a.m. Club?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I was gonna say I think I have it here if you wanted it. But there is something to waking up before the sun, right? I think it's called the golden hour. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to butcher the name. It's called like Brahma Mumuta, where it's like an hour and 36 minutes before the sun comes up is like the most energetic aligned that you could be with the universe and the whole bit, the whole thing. But there is something, whether that be placebo or whatever it is, there is something to that morning when you're up and like it becomes tangible.
It's flowing. Yeah.
It's flowing.
It's a noticeable difference. And I personally think just from experience of what I've done, at least for me, is there's just nothing else that's happened yet.
Right.
I think that's it, because on a Monday, I might wake up at 4:30, train my clients, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, come home, work out, shower, eat, and then get to my computer and it's 2:00 and it's actually tired just from a long day. And then mentally so many things go on. But if you wake up and the first thing you do is just go, at least for me, sit at my computer and create, it just flows because there's nothing else that's in my brain from something that I did early in the day, because there is nothing.
Right.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And again, it's when I was in my stretch of waking up really early, and my wife would wake up like 7, whatever it is. And And I would be fucking fired up, and I'd be like, and she's like, I'm like, you have to realize I've been up for 4 hours right now. Like it's 12 o'clock for me, right?
Yeah.
It's 11 o'clock for me, whatever the math is. And that becomes like a real thing. Like the days, like you have like 2 lives. I was actually talking to this old school Italian guy, and he's like, you have 2 lives. Like he's like, and your first life is like that chunk of time where like, you know, you can get all your shit done, and then you have your regular life. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh. I like the way you frame that. Like that makes a lot of sense, and that you really do feel so ahead of the day. You're not on your heels trying to just constantly catch up to it.
No, it's really again therapeutic, but also just it's a little relaxing. Today, again, perfect example. You know, I got most of what I needed to get done before I even got here, and I got here at 10 o'clock.
Right.
It's like you know, once we're done here, I can kind of chill for the rest of the day. It's a very easygoing way to be.
You know what's fucked up about that though, is that you know that feels good, right? Like for me, I'm talking about for myself now. So I know that is a real answer, right? I'm like, that is a real thing that works for me. I've experienced it. It's fantastic, and I should be doing it. But when that alarm goes off at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I have a sunset alarm, so it's like sunrise alarm, so it's like the room lights up rather than having like, you know, the submarine Apple alarm. So it like lights up the room. I was like, what are you doing? And I'll just get up and like, and hit the sunset, and I'm going right back. As much as I know that that's the right fucking thing to do, I still cave to that fucking goddamn alarm.
Sleep is great. I love it. I love sleep. You know, if I wake up at 4:30, basically Monday through Friday, and then Saturday I got to be up a little early. When I don't have to be up, I'm sleeping.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. I call them, I mean, again, being a parent definitely adds massive curveballs to life, which you can't even take into account. But I call them valid humanistic excuses.
Yeah.
Because people are like, it's an excuse. I'm like, yeah, no, I get it, but I'm really fucking tired.
Yeah.
Like, and as much as I'd love to be more dialed in and more disciplined, right? That's the word of the day for everybody. I'm fucking tired. Like, right? I'm fucking tired. So I don't know which one I need more, the sleep or the workout, but I'm still sorting through that.
Yeah, I like the way that you said that. That's a great way to word it. Is there's real excuses out there.
Yeah.
And having 2 or 3 kids and being absolutely exhausted, maybe you don't need to go run 6 miles at 4:30 in the morning.
God bless you if you do.
Yeah.
I'm not against it.
No,
and a part of me is very envious that I'm not doing that. And when I don't do it, I'm like, fuck, why did I do that? Right. But I also allow myself the grace of kind of like I was saying before, when I did CrossFit and I'd go to the 5 a.m. class, the 5:30 a.m. class, if I missed that class, I was a motherfucker to myself. Like I would just like, how could you miss it, you piece of shit? Like you ruined your whole day. Now I'm like, I guess I needed sleep today. I don't know what the lesser of 2 evils is of this particular case, but sometimes I just need the fucking extra sleep, and I'm okay with it.
And I also think too, depending on what the scenario is, you reach a point where you kind of like earned the ability to not have to go to that class, right? So I use the example of when I go away on vacation, I don't really work out and I eat like shit. Why? Because I know the second I step back in my door, things are going to snap right back into place.
Yeah.
I've also earned it after 18 years of being pretty disciplined and diligent with all of that stuff. But it's also knowing that these few days aren't going to ruin everything. And I've earned the right to have a few days because I also know, like when you don't go to the 5 a.m. class, you'll tell yourself it's fine because you'll know you'll go tomorrow. Right. And if you're brand new into this habit forming, that's different. That's probably not going to be the case. Right. But you, in the scenario you were in, at least then, you'll say, you know what, not today, but I know for a fact I'll go tomorrow. Right. So it depends on where you are, I think, in whatever habit it is that you're trying to build, like that journey.
That's a really good lens because I get caught up in like, because right now I'm in a stretch of like my workout is literally doing stretching on the floor and maybe walking on the treadmill because of the back thing. Mm-hmm. And I think had I not had a better foundation of fitness and relationship with myself and like my own approach to life, I would be probably in a very darker, depressed state than I actually am. And I'm kind of just in this state where I'm like, this is where I am right now. This is where my body is right now. And I looked at it as almost in the sense of like, I needed to slow down. Like I really did need to slow down at that point. And my body was like, oh, you're not gonna slow down at all? Okay, we'll make you slow down, right? Yeah. And having that relationship with myself and my foundation of fitness, right? And knowing that, okay, in these next month, 2 months, it is what it is. It's been about almost 8 weeks now. it is what it is. It's almost out of my control to a sense. So rather than beat the shit out of myself, I just allow myself to say, okay, this is where I am right now. And once I'm in a place mentally and physically where I'm like, all right, I can get back into it to a degree that I'd like to, then I'll get back into it. But then I also think maybe that's bullshit. I'm just excusing myself. I could be doing push-ups.
One, you could probably afford to do a couple push-ups.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, maybe this was just your body needed to slow down. And then there's different ways to look at it. Like you said, you can look at it as from, oh shit, I'm screwed, I'm ruining everything. Or you can just look at it as, all right, this is a new process that I have to figure out how to get through.
Yeah.
And if you seem like a pretty process-oriented or path-oriented person, so instead of looking at it as the negative, you look at it as, okay, how do I put the pieces of this puzzle together to then get out of this in an appropriate way?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like that because it is process oriented. Do you find yourself to be one of those people, like if someone asked you, do you do enough? What would your answer be?
So right now, I would actually say yes.
Oh, good for you.
I'm getting much better at that. I'd say maybe 3 months ago, I would have said, no, it's never enough.
What was the catalyst for that?
I think I've just been better. So I think the catalyst is this. My wife has been on this manifestation journey. She's really kind of like changed her.
I just saw Gabby Bernstein.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, she's big. You should get her the book. It's a book called Self-Help. And she's all about manifestation. So
I think my wife in the long run, of course, was the catalyst for all of this. She was right. So she's just kind of been on
Aren't they such a great mirror?
They're the best. So she's been on a big like manifestation / like mindset shift journey, I would call it. So she's been really good at that. I started kind of dabbling with it too. She listened to a book she really liked.
What was the book?
I think it's just called Manifest.
Okay.
By Roxy Nafusi. I'm going to butcher that. Anyway, so I started listening to, so I kind of got into that realm. Manifestation, I've heard, can be dangerous because if you just sit there and think all day and don't actually doing anything. Sure. I think it works for me because I'm a doer anyway. So I think what I did, long story short, was I threw some goals up there, some pretty outlandish long-term goals, and just told myself that I will achieve them because I actually do believe that because I am the person that will take the action. Long story short, I think it just got me out of the like, what am I doing today? What am I doing today? And just put the like, let's get here, like long-term, whatever it is, 1, 3, 5, 10-year plan, whatever. Let's get that up there. And I've gotten pretty good at convincing myself that, yeah, you'll get there eventually. So like do things that you're supposed to do to get there, but don't overstress on what are you doing in this exact moment? Do you have to get there? Every single day is one day to get closer. I'm like, I'll get there. And I think that's kind of calmed me down a little bit and not made me so anxious of, I have to get there, I have to get there, I have to get there, which made me just do everything now to get there. And instead I've gotten I'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
I get it. I understand exactly what you're saying. So the manifestation thing is funny because again, it gets painted in this thing. I was like, well, if you just think about it, it will come to life. It's like, again, to your point, that's not how that works.
Right.
You need to, whether you want to call it universe, I'm comfortable at this current season of my life to call it God. Mm-hmm. God recognizes the effort that's being put out there, right? And it's reciprocated and the effort gets matched, right? And it becomes this thing where you energetically get into a place where like, I know I'm going to get there because I've gotten there before without having this. It's like, how do you want to get there? Do you want to get there white knuckling it and be like, I got to get there? Or do you want to like do it in a more flow based?
Yes.
And for someone like you who says like, yeah, I'm going to get there. Right. And it's realistically, it's not on our time frame anyway. Right. It's not tomorrow. Right. And I think that social media and the Amazon Prime world that we live on, we expect to like order it and it's on our doorstep and here's your answer and here it is and you're good. And even when you do receive that thing, how often do you get to that goal and all of a sudden you're like, all right, what's the next one?
Every single
What's the next one? It's every time. It's every time. I was running on the beach on a summer vacation one point. It sounds so exotic. It was Jersey. Calm down. But I was running on a beach and I remember I was like, I'm going to get to, it was like a building on the side of like, there's the beach and the boardwalk. There's a building in the distance. I said, that's going to be the end point. I'm going to get there and that's going to be the line of demarcation. I'll turn back. And in my mind, I expected to like cross this finish line and like someone to come out of the ocean with like a bouquet and like a trophy, like, congratulations, you crossed. I was like, I don't know, 13 miles. So I was like, congratulations, you crossed the finish line. You've done it. And I got there. I was like, where's the confetti and shit? Like, like I just had to turn around and run back the other fucking way, right? But we have this idea of like this line of demarcation in life that we're going to cross this retirement line, right? And everything's going to be perfect and everything's going to be magical. And we finally arrived. But as you go into this journey of life, you realize it's an evolving process. And I think manifestation gets caught up in, hey, just sit back and watch it versus like go and take action towards the person you want to be and do the things you want to be doing.
Yeah. And that's where I totally understand where somebody gets a negative connotation with it. I think it's good for someone like me who's already a doer to then kind of change their mindset of, like you said, instead of white knuckling it, be like, hey, you'll get there. And set big goals. Like you can be, I just used the word outlandish, but you can be outlandish. You don't have to put these like self-limiting beliefs on yourself. Like build a little bit more confidence in yourself. Like put that number up there that is actually in your brain, not the number that you're like kind of think you could get to. It's like, fuck that, put the big one up there. And then you just start to kind of look at it and look at it and look at it and you get a little bit more confidence. And then I don't know if that was what allowed me to then be like, it'll happen eventually instead of it needs to happen next year.
Yeah. It's weird because it's almost this reverse engineering process where like you're going from the end to the present, but you have to live from the present to the end, right? And you have to find where the parallel is or find that, I talk about it a lot, but that golden thread, that thing that pulls you forward to be the best version of yourself, to create the thing you want to create, to create the program, to create the space. And that's what pulls you forward towards that. But you have to have this end goal in mind. And the part about what we're discussing is like that end goal is elusive. That end goal keeps on changing. You may put that number on the board today and it's this number. And then all of a sudden you're like, nah, it's that number. But unless you have that honest, real conversation with yourself and say like, what is the fucking number, right? And as outlandish as it may seem, as big as those, lofty as those goals and dreams may be, if you don't put them out there, then you'll always kind of fall short of them, no matter what.
Yeah, every time. And then what I've learned too, just in my business processes, because I have 2 business coaches. And when I first started with them, they were like, what's the number you want? I was like, this. And they were like, you'll get there pretty quickly. I was like, there's no fucking way.
Right.
I've smashed that number. I'm twice it now. And I'm like, oh, that's what they were talking about. And it's like, if you just set the goals there, like as you start to break through barriers, you realize, oh, there's a lot more to this. And then you break through that barrier and there's a lot more. So as you go towards that, what I call outlandish goal, you start to realize, as you get one step closer, you start to realize how much more possible it is, like exponentially more possible. When you're trying to get there initially, it looks so far away, but then you like get through that one
threshold.
Yeah, that one threshold. And then you realize it's way more possible than you thought before. And then it just gets more and more possible as you get a little closer to it.
You start to develop the confidence behind you and you could pull from a Rolodex of experience to say like, oh, I've done it once before. I could do it again now at this X, right? But I think that's also an entrepreneurial mindset is like, you don't want to live within a container of a glass ceiling, right? That's where people get caught up in like their regular 9 to 5. It's like, I'm stuck at this caliber, that this is all I'm ever going to be compensated for my thing. And I remember, when I first started going on all these different entrepreneurial endeavors, whether it be Agora or the coaching, all that stuff, I said like to my wife, I was like, no one's ever going to just come to me and go, here's this amount of money, right? Because we think you're worth that. And if you could be really good at something you don't like doing, imagine how good you'll be at doing something you fucking love doing.
Dude, I've been hearing that quote. We might be listening to the same people because
I don't know.
Recently, I've been getting into this guy, James Smith.
Okay.
And he started as a personal trainer, built a huge following. Now he's kind of like coaching other coaches how to build their business anyway. But he says that all the time. And it's the ultimate like, yeah, like just fucking go for it. It's the ultimate like punch to any sort of doubts that you might have. If you're good at something you hate,
right.
What the fuck? You'll be great at something you love.
Right.
It's amazing because you just like it so much more. You'll work harder. You'll care more. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the old expression, right? If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah. I disagree with that one. I think you never stop working, but
Yeah, right. Of course. I mean,
No,
that's
I know.
semantics at that point.
Right,
But right, it's going to be more work, right?
Yes.
Like being an entrepreneur, doing your own thing, waking up at 4 a.m. to do your clients and do all that. It's more work than if you had a fucking 9 to 5. But the fact that you could show up and you could say, it doesn't feel like work. I'm not drudging my way through my day. I'm not dragging my feet or counting down the clock or punching in and going, up 5 o'clock's here. I got to get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Or, looking forward to Friday or the weekend or your vacation or the summer. You're not just kind of moving your life along in a way that's like just taking away from that energy, right? You're building on it. You're growing towards it. Again, having that end goal is like this meeting of forward mobility versus reverse engineering. And now you take that energy to propel you forward.
Yeah. I've been very fortunate enough to never have to live that life.
Yeah.
And I can't even fathom it.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound ideal.
Yeah. It's like that scene in Fight Club where he's just like at the copy sheet, it's like,
exactly.
We're all copies of copies of copies.
Yep.
And again, obviously the more you step onto that path and that journey, the more it unfolds for you and the more you do realize, and that's when you become present. That's when you realize that the things around you are so magical and how important it is to protect your energy and allocate your energy towards things that you actually want to be putting them towards. And again, God or universe, source, whatever term you want to use, rewards that effort. It matches that energy. It compounds that energy and goes, oh, and then it gives you the little breadcrumbs or whatever it is to keep you going on that path.
Yep, exactly.
It's an amazing thing. I don't even know what else to go. It's an amazing thing. I love seeing people do what they love to do, but I also love the idea of what you're doing now. And like, yes, it's the kettlebells. Yes, it's so much of that. And you kind of said it before, it's like, this is what brought me here. But like, now it's almost like you're in this evolution phase, it seems like, where you're like, I'm ready to kind of grow outside of just that. That's still going to be there. But I also want to incorporate this and this and this and really serve people in other ways as well.
And you just said it very well with serve people in other ways. Is as I've gone down this entrepreneurial path and slightly explore different routes or realms, I've realized that I really do enjoy helping people. I know it sounds so fucking cliche and corny, but I like helping people. Fitness has just always been my tool of doing that.
Right.
And there are other ways to also do that. Now, obviously fitness is still the biggest pillar and the pillar that I do and my favorite one, but I'm like, oh, there's other routes I can take to still kind of fill this cup of enjoying helping people in different scenarios.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people struggling with certain things and there's a lot of help to give out there.
Yeah. And it's I think the quote's on the wall by Muhammad Ali and it says, our rent on this earth, I'm going to fuck it up. Damn it.
It's due every day or something like that.
Yeah. It's like our rent on earth is doing something for others or something like that.
Oh, okay.
I fucked it up. Damn it.
I'll take it though.
It's right there. I'll read it to you afterwards. Dude, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the conversation. Again, I love seeing people in their space doing what they love to do, manifesting whatever it is, the term you want to use, following the golden thread towards the life that they want to create. And so much of that is in service of others, right? We think that, it's got to be, or the culture teaches it's got to be about you, but really, like, again, it's what you put out. And obviously you're putting out amazing content, but like the message and the energy that you put out, and just, again, it's authentic and you look healthy as fuck. So whatever you're doing, it's working. So keep it up.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. That's the goal that I'm trying to get out there. So it's always nice when it's noticed. So I appreciate that.
And where can people connect with you? Where can they get your program? If they want to swing some kettlebells, yes. Where can they get all that?
So just go to either Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. All of it is just Pat Damiano. And then you can just go from there.
Easy
all
enough.
my stuff.
Dude,
easy.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate doing it.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you having me.
Awesome.